In the heart of West Africa, a storm has been brewing, a geopolitical crisis that has sent shockwaves across the region. The sudden withdrawal of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, was a move that few saw coming, and yet, in hindsight, the signs were there all along. These three Sahelian nations, all ruled by military juntas, decided to break away from the regional bloc in January 2024, citing grievances that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. Their exit was not just a symbolic gesture, it was a turning point, one that threatened regional security, economic stability, and the future of cooperation in West Africa. But now, just when it seemed that the separation was final, behind closed doors, a quiet but determined effort is underway to bring them back into the fold. Before we dive deeper into today's update, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is key to helping us grow and reach more viewers like you. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on exciting updates. At the center of this high-stakes diplomatic push is Ghana's president, John Mahama. Known for his negotiation skills and deep understanding of regional politics, Mahama has stepped into the role of mediator, taking it upon himself to spearhead efforts aimed at reintegrating these nations into ECOWAS. According to Ghana's Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Mahama has wasted no time in setting things into motion. A special envoy has already been appointed, tasked with engaging with the leadership of these breakaway nations. Plans are in place for diplomatic visits, meetings, and strategic discussions, all aimed at convincing Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso to rethink their decision. But the question remains, will these military-led governments be willing to return? And if so, at what cost? To understand why these nations left in the first place, we need to go back to the roots of their grievances. In recent years, West Africa has seen a wave of military coups, particularly in the Sahel region. Mali's military first seized power in August 2020, overthrowing a civilian government that was accused of corruption and failing to address the growing security crisis posed by jihadist insurgents. Burkina Faso followed in January 2022, with the armed forces toppling the government under similar circumstances. Niger became the latest addition to this pattern in July 2023, when its military removed the elected president, citing his inability to protect the country from terrorist attacks. For ECOWAS, these developments were a clear violation of the bloc's principles. Democracy has always been at the core of ECOWAS governance, and in response, the organization imposed heavy sanctions on these nations, hoping to force them to restore civilian rule. But rather than complying, the juntas doubled down, arguing that ECOWAS had failed to understand the unique security challenges they were facing. Instead of viewing ECOWAS as a protector of democracy, they began to see it as an adversary, an entity that was out of touch with the realities on the ground. When ECOWAS threatened military intervention to restore democratic governance, the situation reached a breaking point. The three countries chose to walk away, leaving the regional body that they had been a part of for decades. Their exit was met with mixed reactions. On one hand, it sent a strong message to ECOWAS that its policies were being resisted by those in power. On the other hand, it created a wave of uncertainty. Economically, the move threatened trade relations, disrupted supply chains, and complicated financial agreements that had long been in place. Security-wise, it fractured what was once a coordinated regional approach to fighting terrorism. And politically, it raised difficult questions. If ECOWAS could not keep its member states united, what did that mean for its future? It did not take long for these breakaway nations to start charting their own path. They quickly moved to establish the Alliance of Sahel States, ASS, a coalition designed to foster military and economic cooperation among them. This alliance signaled a shift, one that saw these countries turning away from traditional West African partnerships and exploring new geopolitical allegiances. Russia, in particular, became a major player in this equation, with increasing military and economic ties developing between Moscow and these three countries. The deeper they moved to this alternative alliance, the harder it seemed for ECOWAS to ever bring them back. And yet, hope is not lost. Reports have now emerged suggesting that at least one or two of these countries are quietly reconsidering their decision. According to Nigeria's special advisor to the president on media and public communications, Sunday Dare, there have been behind the scenes discussions indicating that some of these nations may be exploring ways to reconnect with ECOWAS. While the official withdrawal deadline had passed, ECOWAS had provided a 6-month grace period, an opportunity for dialogue and negotiation. This period, which extends until mid-2025, is now the focal point of diplomatic efforts. One of the biggest moments in this saga is expected to unfold at the upcoming African Union AU summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This high-profile gathering will bring together leaders from across the continent, including the breakaway nations and key ECOWAS figures. Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who also serves as ECOWAS chairman, will be at the forefront of these discussions. The summit presents a rare opportunity for direct engagement, and the stakes could not be higher. With the world watching, this may be the best chance yet to rebuild bridges and negotiate a way forward. Ghana, under Mahama's leadership, is also looking at the bigger picture. Foreign Minister Ablakwa has hinted at Ghana's growing interest in exploring global economic partnerships beyond ECOWAS. One of the most talked about possibilities is the idea of Ghana strengthening ties with BRICS, the economic bloc that includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. While this does not necessarily mean turning away from traditional partners like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, it does reflect a broader trend in international relations, a shift toward multipolar alliances. The world is changing, and Ghana, like many other nations, is looking to position itself strategically on the global stage. The developments surrounding ECOWAS, the breakaway nations, and the broader geopolitical shifts happening in West Africa all point to one undeniable reality. This is a defining moment for the region. The choices made in the coming months will shape not just the political landscape, but also economic partnerships, security strategies, and the way West African nations engage with the rest of the world. But perhaps the most intriguing question remains: what will Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso ultimately decide? Will they choose to rejoin ECOWAS and restore regional unity, or will they continue down the path of independent alliances, forging a new order outside the traditional West African framework? And if they do return, under what conditions? Will ECOWAS be willing to soften its stance on military-led governments, or will it insist on a full return to civilian rule before negotiations can be finalized? The coming months will be critical, and as diplomatic maneuvers continue behind closed doors, one thing is certain: West Africa is at a crossroads. The decisions made now will not only determine the fate of ECOWAS, but also set a precedent for how regional conflicts and alliances are handled in the future. The world is watching, the leaders are positioning themselves, and history is being written in real time. Will ECOWAS emerge from this crisis stronger than before? Will these nations find common ground and mend the fractures that threaten regional stability? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a new geopolitical reality, one where West Africa is no longer defined by its traditional blocs, but by a more fluid, unpredictable web of alliances? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear: this story is far from over.
If today is your first time watching this channel, or you are returning to this channel for the exciting content, please subscribe to the channel for more educative and developmental projects across Ghana and Africa as a whole. Do you want to know about the state of a project in Africa? Then make sure to like and comment the name of the project you would like us to talk about and its current state.